Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Phoenix. I'm Benji Messer, music director. I use he, him pronouns. I have the choir with me today to lead music. Please rise, choir. Today's service is about doing justice work together, and our opening hymn is the peace song, Circle Round for Freedom by Linda Hirschhorn. Please rise in body and spirit and sing it with us. Chalice lighting.
Good morning. I'm John LaBarbera. My pronouns are he, they, and I am your worship associate today. Thank you. Join me as we recite our covenant and Reverend Sky lights our chalice. If you're watching remotely and you have a chalice with you, please light it with us. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to share our strength in fellowship, thus do we covenant. Please be seated. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Phoenix. No matter where you come from, how you worship, or how you identify, you are welcome here. Welcome home, and welcome to worship. Welcome as we explore the mysteries of being human together in community. We're so glad you're here. And I'm so excited to have Reverend Sky Williams-Tao back with us in the pulpit today as our worship leader. The Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Phoenix strives to be a spiritual community for our time, one that is theologically diverse, radically inclusive, and justice-centered. If you're new here, and I saw a bunch of new folks greeting today, we're so glad you found us. Each Sunday is different here, so please come back a few times to really get to know us. If you are willing and able, will you please wave so we know that you're here with us? Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much. We do have a few announcements about our community. The adult faith class on banned books, led by Chris Seashore, will start today at noon after service in room 15. In next week's service, Sam Kirkland will host a panel discussion, Civic Engagement as a Spiritual Practice. Plan to attend to hear from UUCP members and guest legislator Reverend Quante Cruz. I would like to invite Captain Rob up for an important announcement in our community.
Captain's log, 240922. There we go. Thank you. So Starfleet Command has tasked the UUCP Enterprise with a multi-phase mission. Phase 1 is to safely transport a collection of Unitarian Universalists to the Paradise Valley region of the Maricopa District, where they will participate in an annual competition ritual. I believe you call it an auction. The UU species battle with each other to see who can pay more money for relics, artifacts, services, and social events. We've been told that no blood is spilled, and instead these highly altruistic creatures engage in this activity like a sport, the winner being determined as the one who outbids the others on each item. And get this, the proceeds are used by this community in service of this community. Fascinating. Phase 2 of the mission is to collect said artifacts, services, dilithium crystals, and events, beginning now, so that participants can have the time to plan their bidding strategies, aligning those items with not only their own needs, but the needs of their friends and families. I believe your species calls that giving gifts. And for Phase 3, we are honored that Admiral Dance has invited us to host and facilitate the event. Taking advantage of 24th century technology, we are going to make the silent auction more accessible and inclusive for everybody by holding it online. So every member of our society can participate, even if they can't be on board the Enterprise the night of the auction. The live auction, on the other hand, will be held right here in the UUCP Enterprise, and participants must be here to compete. My friends and members of my crew, I ask you now to all grab your tricorders, I think you may call them your smartphone, and activate your scheduling app. Go on, get your phones, get your phones. There are 3 important dates I need you to log on your calendar. Date number 1 is sometime later today when you're at home. Block 30 minutes to think about what are you going to donate for the auction. Right, we all walk out of here going, oh, I gotta donate something, and you forget to think about it, so put it on your calendar. Okay, number 2, please lock the date, October 26th at 12 o'clock. That is when the online bidding will begin. And then the 3rd date to log in your system is November 9th at 5 p.m., which is the live auction here in this facility. We have 34 days remaining to collect the artifacts that will be included in this competition. Now, additional information about how to donate items and how to register to participate in the event will be highlighted in Starfleet's weekly newsletter called The Compass, and on the information portal, also known as the UUCP website. Finally, if any of our passengers are interested in joining our crew, helping to organize and host the event, please track me or Commander Mike down at the back of the sanctuary after today's service. Look, we have found the Unitarian Universalist race to be a pillar of citizenship across the universe, as shown in your fellowship, action towards social justice, and embodying basic common sense. It is an honor to be part of this event. Thank you.
So, now I have something a little hard to share. I'm so sad to share these words from Reverend Christine Dance about yet another tragedy in our congregation. A letter went out about it this past Friday. Early last Wednesday morning, there was a house fire in West Phoenix that claimed the lives of Kayla Clark, Serene Clark, and Jackson Clark. Kayla served as our sexton for community nights for 4 years and is the daughter of Belinda Clark, who was our beloved sexton for 13 years. For those who are not familiar with the term, a sexton is the one who manages coffee hour food, cleanup, and general care of our space when there's community gathering time. Both Kayla and Belinda also held what Reverend Christine has called kitchen ministry when they were working, helping youth and adults feel connected in different ways. Kayla died with her 2 children, Serene and Jackson. Serene was 11 years old and spent most Sundays and Thursdays helping her mom and grandmother in the kitchen. She was playmates with a number of the children in our congregation, and she participated in our children's ministry programming. Jackson would have turned 5 the day after he died. And he was born while Kayla worked here and was dedicated in this congregation by Reverend Christine in 2020. Reverend Christine has been in contact with both Belinda and the children's father, Zach, and has offered pastoral care and memorial services here if and when they are ready. It is hard when someone dies before their time, but it is particularly hard when children or parents die. This congregation has had more than its share of tragic deaths the last 2 years, including 3 other parents. If you knew this family, I am sure your heart is breaking. But even if you didn't know them, a tragic death like this can bring up all sorts of emotions. I will be holding a listening circle after the service in Annex B for anyone who wants to come and talk about how this is affecting them, whether you knew the family or not. It is healthy to share our feelings and grief together. Let us take time to light this memorial candle and remember Kayla, Serene, and Jackson. With sadness in our hearts and a commitment to sharing love as a community, let us now draw deeper into the present moment and into our worship.
Our opening words this morning are from Crystal Hogan, a worship associate from the Neshoba Unitarian Universalist Church in Mississippi. To the Spirit with whom we commune this morning, we ask that our minds be open, our hearts welcoming, our arms embracing. We lift up those whose lives are touched by sadness, by illness, by worry, or by loneliness. May they find comfort, hope, and healing strength in this community and the larger community. We celebrate those whose lives are whole and well. May they share their strength with those in need and find warmth and love in the sharing of their spirit. I now invite anyone who would like to come forward for Together time.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Katie Resendez, and I'm the Director of Children's Ministries here at UUC Phoenix. I need an actor. Eden looks like she says no. Okay. Bela and Gio both seem to say yes. Okay. Come over here with me. Gio, I'm going to have you stand right here. And Bela, stand right here. Do you see this giant pile of rocks here? It's huge, right? It is. It's gigantic. It needs to go over there. Well, it doesn't belong in the middle of the sanctuary. Have you all ever seen a pile of rocks this big in the middle of the sanctuary? Well, it doesn't. Well, we don't keep them here in the sanctuary. They actually go in the memorial garden. Oh, sorry. Good morning. Yeah, there we go. We'll start with good morning. Now you know what my home life is like. So those need to move. No, you'll be fine. None of them are more bigger than this. Just carry them, it's fine. Okay. He's got all of those rocks, and he's carrying them all in that big bundle. Awesome, thank you. Gio, there is a huge, huge tree here, and we need it cut down. Can you cut it down? Okay. What do we yell when it's starting to come down? Timber! Okay, can you put it out in the memorial garden? Oh my gosh, that looks like such hard work. Oh, wow, Gio's really strong. Oh yeah, you're pretty strong too. If the two of you would sit down. So when we have work to do in our community and things to get done, we automatically have the impulse to just do it, right? And a lot of us have been taught things about independence and self-sustainability. Remember last week we talked about that? If there was a pile of 200 rocks sitting here, 300, sorry, would we ask the 10-year-old to pick them up and move them on his own? No. We would ask each other to help carry them. Not you, but you might hold the door open for us, or you might conduct it. Right, but you might be able to be like, okay, here, let's go, and help coordinate. If we have to move a tree, we don't just grab it with our hands and shake it, right? We look for our tools and we look around us. When we do those things, we're actually creating a space for justice. When we create space to help one another and to use our resources, that is a space for an act of justice. Because when we try to do things all by ourselves, we don't create space for community connection. We aren't creating space for care, or for even saying, hey, I value your work in this community. Yeah, I only have 2 books to carry, but if you're walking down the hall with me, could you carry one? Because what that says is that I see your strength, and I see that you want to be with me, and I see that we're doing this task of being people together. So creating that space is really important. Now I'm going to take us to one more level. And this is a level that the kids understand because they actually used to be taught this in school. And everyone who's about over the age of 30 never got these lessons. So it's social emotional learning, which is now against the rules in most Arizona classrooms. As Oliver can tell us, he is not allowed to teach social emotional learning anymore. But until a few years ago, kids had regular classes in it. And one of the things that they were taught that we were never taught was saying the names and the words for your feelings. That lets us carry the load. This week, our community has a whole lot of feelings. And those feelings can be a million different things. They can be deep, deep sadness and mourning and wailing grief. It can be joy at memories. It could be anger. Those could all be happening all at once. But as adults, we were told you feel one emotion at a time. Are you currently happy? Great. Are you anything else? Not great, right? But what the kids can teach us and what I see them do with one another is to start out conversations like this. Sorry, I'm really anxious right now and I'm a little bit sad and I'm really hungry, but we need to get this done. Can we go down the hall together to work on it? And that thing that they do beforehand of like, I'm acting this way because these 7 things are happening in my head and my heart is one of the greatest acts of justice they can possibly do and that we can learn from them. Because what it says is, this fast way I'm talking to you right now, I know it seems really aggressive and angry, but it's because I just stubbed my toe and my toe hurts really bad and it's not about you, right? And it lets there be space. Or it says, something really bad happened this week and I'm really sad, but that rainbow we're looking at is really beautiful. And it's still beautiful and my heart is broken. And so, adults, this is what I need you to do this week. All week long when you're talking to each other, when you're talking to the kids, is to start by saying, where are your words coming from? What's the stuff going on in your head and heart first? So that we don't have to try to decode what each other is carrying, and so that no one has to pick up all 400 of those rocks by themselves or try to move that tree with just their bare hands. Start with, I'm feeling this, and this, and this. Remember that you can say 72 emotions and they can be opposites. And then say your words. Let's all go forward in this week together. I'm sorry, it was 300 rocks. Let's all go forward in this week together. Let's each carry rocks for one another. And let's remember that when we name our emotions, we are doing justice in the world. Thank you.
Each week, we split our offering between this congregation and an organization that shares our values. For September, our Share the Plate partner is Booker T. Washington Child Development Center. Their mission is to nurture young children through quality preschool programs, to inspire children to use creativity, and to discover freely the world around them. They were founded to provide education to children of low-income families and have expanded to offer quality preschool. They have continued to grow with the help of donors and the volunteers that make their mission possible. Through all these years, their purpose still remains the same: bring quality services to children and families. For all that you give, we are so grateful. Ushers, thank you so much for your willing hands in helping us pass the plate. It's an important practice in this community to take time to share pieces of our lives with one another. Sharing them together, we can amplify the joys and lessen our burdens. If you're on Zoom and you'd like to share a joy or a sorrow, please type it into the chat. A little brief note of what's in your heart today. I'll read it out loud, what you share. If you're in the sanctuary today, there are cards located at the small table in the back of the sanctuary. I have a few right here. As we open this sacred time to share in community, let us open our hearts to the joys and sorrows that we share together, and those still in our hearts with a moment of stillness. We'll start on Zoom. A concern from Amy Miskell. Adrian Miklas fell in her home yesterday and hit her head. She was admitted to Banner Thunderbird last night. As we wait for more on Zoom, we can read some we have here in the sanctuary. We have a joy from Gio. I have finally found my bio dad, and I'll be going to Texas to meet him on October 3rd. That's awesome. That is so cool, Gio. This is anonymous. Please send thoughts for my daughter with major depression. I'm sure many of us, many of those in our lives, have these sort of struggles. We can take a moment to hold them all for just a moment. We have a sorrow from Yosana for the people affected by the terrorist attack in Lebanon. We have a joy from my wife, Natasha. Felix and I are excited to fly and visit my cousin and Milo, Felix's 6-month-old cousin. Felix says, "I love you so, so, so much." They're going to have a wonderful time, I can tell you that. Do we have one more on Zoom? Oh my, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. Rumi? It's a joy, either way. We brought home a new baby this month, baby Ezekiel. Wonderful. Yes, of course, new life. Let us enjoy that joy together. I will wait just one more moment for anything else to come in while we gather the joys and sorrows in our own hearts. Some deep breaths help, for sure. For all of our joys and all of our sorrows, those named here and those in the silent sanctuary of our hearts, we send our love to each other, both here and online.
When we are holding so much in our world and our hearts, it is good to take some time to connect with our body and our spirit. Oftentimes, this can be the only time we get to stop and do this in our busy weeks. Let us soften into the here and now in a spirit of meditation and prayer. Relax and settle into this present moment. And as we've been doing, I'm gonna breathe in and out. The meditation for today is a paragraph from the piece, Embers to Ashes, by Elizabeth Tarbucks. I do want to give the context that it's a meditation on the author's dying father. After hearing that my father was dying in England, I went to the beach to give myself space to breathe in the truth of what was happening. There I found 2 horseshoe crabs dying in the dry sand, left behind by the tide. I carried them back into the water and watched them nuzzle beneath the shallow waves. And I thought my father would approve if he knew that I had saved the lives of these 2 creatures on a morning that he was dying. But I had to accept that he would never know I had been to the beach that day, and that he and I would never share another story. So I'm gonna breathe again. Breathe in and out. Amen.
Mimi Bornstein's song, Comfort Me, at a lot of memorial services here. Maybe it's what I need to hear at those times. Anyway, feel free to stand or to stay seated as we sing it together. Whatever feels right for you.
This country likes to talk a lot about justice. It's in our Pledge of Allegiance. liberty, and justice for all. We have a federal Department of Justice, and we have an entire branch of government posited on that very notion, though your mileage may vary on that these days. Did you ever notice that justice seems to revolve around the number 4? There are 4 types of justice. Distributive, who gets what? Procedural, are people being treated fairly? Retributive, the punishments that fit the crime. And restorative, rehabilitation through reconciliation. And there are 4 pillars of justice: fairness in process, transparency in actions, opportunities for voice, and impartiality in decision-making. And I know we have several legal eagles and scholars in our congregation, so please forgive this novice explanation. Reverend Sky is going to tell us all about UUJAZ and their mission of social justice, recognizing that despite the 4 pillars of justice I mentioned above, we still have to fight for a fair distribution of resources, opportunities, and privileges in this society. I, for one, am greatly looking forward to their sermon today. I'll leave you with my favorite quote about justice. This is one that we are quite familiar with here, as I'm more than certain I've heard it within these walls multiple times within the last few months. But it bears repeating to remind us of both hope and strength. In one of his last speeches, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. declared that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice.
Yeah, I don't think we remembered to mention at the beginning of service when we introduced Reverend Sky that Sky is currently leading a group called UUJAZ Arizona, which is an organization that all of the UU congregations pay into and that coordinates our efforts for justice together. So we're so glad to have you here, and we look forward to hearing about that. And as Katie mentioned earlier, justice is often very personal. It has to do with what people actually need in their real lives. And for me personally, as a Jew, it has been very important for me recently to sing music and bring music to the choir that gives me a chance to care about the Palestinian people, to let my heart break. And most Palestinians are Muslim, and so this next piece really hit home for me. It's called Rest for a Soul. It's by the Canadian composer Hussein John Mohammed, and in it, he weaves together 2 prayers for peace and reconciliation, one from Christianity and one from Islam.
Allahumma salli ala
Thank you all. Thank you, Benji. So this past spring, a group of Unitarian Universalists phone banked with UUJAZ to support access to abortions and reproductive health care more broadly in Arizona through Proposition 139. Stephanie Giannini, who works for UUJAZ and who you may have known by the name Stephanie Morales, organized the effort and invited me to do a reading to religiously anchor the action. I kind of dithered and pawed through a bunch of different readings until I landed on this one called Say the Word by Eileen Casey Campbell. So here's a paragraph from that reading. Downstairs in the church kitchen, I never heard anyone say abortion, but I did hear the mothers whisper to one another about which doctor to call. I heard the organist offer rides to a clinic far enough away to not be seen by the prying eyes of God or whoever else. I saw aunties quietly slip round sleeves of pills into teenagers' shaky hands. And in the Sunday school hallway, they took up collections of their own sort to pay for a nameless procedure for Mary Teresa or Mary Angela or Mary Elizabeth or somebody inevitably named for that single unmarried mother. End quote. I was thinking about this reading today, for the sermon today, because to me it highlights the way that recognizing and articulating our needs is fundamental to justice work. Many of the great social movements start with this very thing. Start with people talking together about what they need, and then finding ways to meet those needs together. And there is this more complicated layer, right? It comes when other groups of people, or just a few people with a lot of power, try to block those needs from getting met. And this is especially heartbreaking when those needs are for things like food, or a place to live, or basic safety, or getting to decide what happens to our own bodies. When I think about a Unitarian Universalist take on justice, in particular, this is one of the places I start. Because it places care at the center, love at the center of justice. It's our care of ourselves and one another that allows us to articulate our own needs, our own feelings, and to respond to the needs and feelings of others. And then to build those networks of care into movements and organizations. Okay, and now we're moving to the part of the sermon that I honestly felt the oddest about in terms of the news we got today. So it just felt a little strange to sort of be holding grief and death, and then also be like, my sermon is about institutional history. So I'm going to talk about institutional history, but I'm also going to give an extra invitation that if that is just not where you are today, that's okay. I am totally not fussed. If you want to take a second to leave the sanctuary, if you want to stand in sunshine by a tree, if you want to do some art, get some water, whatever you need. So for those of you who may not know, Benji sort of lifted this up, but I started work as the co-director of finance and operations for the organization Unitarian Universalist Justice Arizona Network. We're also often called UUJAZ, or acronymed to UUJAZ. UUJAZ generally is an organization whose scope is UU justice work in the state of Arizona. And what UU justice work has meant has changed over the course of the organization's life. So first off, this year is officially UUJAZ's 10-year anniversary. And so for me, that was this invitation to learn about those past 10 years and do some reflecting on them. And as I was doing that, I started to really think of it as two different 5-year eras in the organization's history. The first era being the first 5 years. Those years were really focused on legislative ministry. So seeing change at the legislator and that structural way of answering needs as the primary place to make a difference. So some of you may have participated in UU Day at the legislature, where folks met with their representatives as an example of this justice model. And I want to say that approach to justice makes a lot of sense given the fact that UUJAZ was founded only a few years after SB 1070, a racist anti-immigration law, was passed in Arizona in 2010. So overturning and fighting that law was a compelling, legislatively focused need throughout the state of Arizona. And the other thing that I think that characterizes this beginning era is that it was the beginning. One of the things I've been doing for UUJAZ for the past few months is going through organizational documents. So I have seen evidence of the work the first folks did to found an organization. Work like filling out forms and organizing committees and dreaming together. And I want to shout out this aspect of meeting needs, of the sometimes boring and ordinary ways that we show up for one another. So first era, and then I think of the second era. And when I think of the second era of UJAZ, I think of the pivot point being when Janine Gelsinger was hired as executive director. And the second era feels to me like it shifted from a legislative focus to a partner focus. And by that, I mean that if the justice model in the first era was really focused on the state legislator being sort of this locus of justice work, I think the second era was more characterized by focusing on meeting the needs of partner organizations. So partner organizations here meaning justice organizations, generally secular, and in particular that are led by folks who are most affected by a justice issue. In this model, I hear deep resonance to the idea that folks who have a deep need for something like safety that are being blocked from meeting that need are best positioned to name what that need is, what it encompasses, and what it feels like to have it be met. I think UJAZ in this era also embraced the wider UU world more broadly. I'm thinking about things like that the organization having more focus on getting grants and funding from national UU groups and connecting to the wider UU ecosystem for training and resources. And part of that being connecting Arizona UUs to these wider UU resources with organizations like UU The Vote and the Beloved Conversations training. And if those are the first two eras of UJAZ, what will this next one be like? When I think of this question, it seems like the heart of it is about what Arizona UUs and congregations need right now, particularly in the realm of justice work. So one immediate need we are helping with is abortion access. So here's some words that Stephanie sent me to help inspire us all. Arizona has emerged as one of the latest political battlegrounds in the debate over abortion rights. Arizona voters will soon have a say in abortion access through a citizen-initiated ballot measure, Prop 139, that would amend the state constitution to protect abortion for all Arizonans. All eyes will be on Arizona in the coming months as citizens lead the charge in determining the fate of abortion access in the state. In Arizona, if we do not vote yes on Proposition 139, we're facing an unacceptable reality. The 15-week ban currently in place that harms survivors of rape and incest, and punishes those experiencing pregnancy complications, and it would remain the law of the land. If that is the outcome, lives would be put at risk and basic rights would be out of reach for millions of Arizonans, just as they are for millions of pregnant folks across the United States. And I want to also offer an invitation. So if you're interested, UUJAZ and You the Vote will, this October we'll be having a canvassing effort. We have some UUs from out of the state coming in to help. And if you're interested in canvassing, there's a sign-up sheet at the back of the sanctuary. You can put your name and contact information down, and I'll connect you with Stephanie. And I also want to lift up, in the vein of different types of justice, that a number of you have already signed up to offer home hospitalities to folks who are coming from out of the state to do this canvassing work in Arizona. Offering people a place to be, offering the care of housing, is absolute justice work. Thank you, thank you. So we're doing this immediate need work around this election cycle, and we're also holding a longer-term vision. Part of that is internally doing work to build sustainable organizational systems. And part of that is that we'll be holding some in-person meetings for you justice leaders throughout Arizona after the election. We want to hold these spaces for UUs to have conversations together, again, from across the state together, about what our needs are right now. We intend to create time and space for you staff and congregations to co-learn and reflect on our organizational, state, and national histories, and to develop a shared analysis around the work of justice for right now, organizing liberation and what it means to succeed. Now, to draw us down to the end, I actually want to go back to the beginning of this sermon. One of the questions I sometimes sit with is, why do justice work? Like, what is the actual answer that gets my very introverted self out of the house and out at protests or knocking on doors? And I think the answer is actually from the beginning of the sermon. The answer of that deep sense of care for one another. Because, and fair warning, this is some religious-y language, I think justice work is a way of doing Unitarian Universalist salvation. I was in a discussion of Winding the Circle of Concern, which is a report about racism and Unitarian Universalism and looking at how to address it. And I was talking about that report with the now Reverend Jamili Omar. So for those of you who don't know, Reverend Jamili Omar is a UU minister from Tucson who was just ordained to the ministry yesterday. And we had this conversation a while ago, and we were talking about how in some religions, salvation is a thing that happens after you die. And in some religions, salvation is a thing that God or a God brings or gives to you. In some religions, salvation is a sort of very personal, reflective, internal affair. And I would say, in Unitarian Universalism, we create salvation through our justice work, through caring for our own and one another's needs. And I do mean that in a broad way, that there is salvation in small moments of grace and transformation. There is salvation in our everyday care for one another. There is salvation in yearning and building a world, yearning for and building a world where more people's needs are met. So I'll end with a hope, a prayer, and a call for more UU salvation.
Thank you, Sky. Thank you so much. We will close with a song about rebuilding the world with love by Rabbi Menachem Creditor. And let's do the first verse seated just to learn the melody. We'll just hum along with it, and then we'll stand after that. Here we go. Goes like, ooh, ooh. That again. Ooh, ooh. And then here. Ooh, ooh. Let's rise, everyone. Olam chesed yibaneh, la 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 la. Olam chesed yibaneh. That means build the world with love. La 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 la. Olam chesed yibaneh, ta la la.
As we close our service, we want to remind you to reach out to someone new or that you haven't seen for a while. Our Exploration Hour activities for children and adults start at noon and will be listed on the screen following the service. Please enjoy our coffee hour, which is in the Johnson Room across the patio. And there will be space in that room for all ages to participate in the Maban Equinox Harvest Celebration. You can see the apples on the tables. Also, again, I want to let you know that I will be holding a listening circle about the Clark family in Annex B. And if you want to sign up to Canvas, there's a sign-up sheet at the back of the sanctuary. So for our closing words, I want to lift up the words of Unitarian minister Reverend Theodore Parker from 1853 that echo into the words of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. that John shared earlier. So here's the quote from Reverend Parker. I do not pretend to understand the moral universe. The arc is a long one, and my eye reaches but little ways. I cannot calculate the curve and complete the figure by experience of sight. I can divine it by conscience. And from what I see, I am sure that it bends towards justice. Go in peace. Go in love.